Hello and welcome to Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. We are a brand new podcast, so we thought we'd hop on and do a little question and answer version of Meet the Hosts and say hello to everybody. Our first episode will be coming out next week. My name is Megan, and this is
Amanda.
welcome. We decided to create a podcast because there's a ton of really shiny homeschool podcasts out there where everything looks perfect all the time. And we love homeschooling. I love homeschooling. Are you a happy homeschool mom, Amanda?
Super happy. Love it.
Love it, right? But it's not super shiny all the time. So
No, as I podcast from my bathroom, because that's the only free space I had.
yes,
But we're here and we're happy to be here.
exactly, right? We work with what we've got. So we are a different brand of podcast than most of the homeschool podcasts that are out there. And we're so happy that you're here. So we thought we would each introduce ourselves and say hello. And then we've got a little Q&A for one another to get to know everybody a little bit better. So Amanda, do you want to do your homeschool background first?
Sure. So I homeschool one kiddo. He is 10, going into 5th grade. Um, and yeah, we came into homeschooling during the pandemic, like a lot of people. My husband was very anti-homeschooling until we did virtual school. We did 2 years of virtual school through the public school. It was horrendous. And he was like, wow, he really is learning a lot more at home than he is learning through the virtual nonsense. And so we were able to just move into regular homeschooling, though we're in California, so we're able to do that unique public charter school system where you do get funds and you have an oversight teacher, but you're still homeschooling.
I love it. And part of the reason, so Amanda and I have been friends. Ironically, we've never met one another in person, even though we have been friends for years. We met through a homeschool mom book club. And one of the beautiful things is that we both approach homeschooling super differently from one another and kind of take a different approach, but still enjoy bouncing ideas off of one another and all of that. So there's a little sprinkling of every homeschool style in our podcast for you. So I am going on 10 years homeschooling. My kids are now 16, 15, and almost 13. And I pulled them, my oldest two went to school for a little itty bitty time. And I just felt like a fish out of water the entire time that they were in the public school system. It was just, they had amazing teachers. They tried so hard to make it work for our family and for our kids, but we were just fish out of water. And so we are very loosey-goosey homeschoolers. My oldest two are early college kids, and we love traveling and learning through experience and books and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, super happy to be here and excited to start a podcast. So a little question and answer. I'll go first if you don't mind, Amanda. Can I ask you the first question?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's hear.
I love it. What is the most spontaneous thing you've ever done?
So I moved to South Korea without having ever eaten Korean food. It was a shock.
That's bold.
I'm from the Midwest. I thought chili was spicy. But it was good. It was an awesome experience. I was really uptight before that, and I learned a whole lot of flexibility and I learned a lot of great lessons. And it was an awesome year and a half. Yeah.
That's so awesome. I love that. Yeah. Okay, that was spontaneous. Very much so. I love it.
All right. Well, how about you? What was the most spontaneous thing that you've ever done?
Do you know, I've probably done a lot of really spontaneous things because I have vague recollections of being like in my 20s and just throwing like a toothbrush and a razor in my purse and going away for the weekend, right? Like in those days. But a lot of that has blurred at this point in life because I live a very different existence now than I did in my 20s. And so I'll probably go with one of the most recent ones, which you know about. So my youngest child and I were supposed to go to Antarctica next year. We had it all planned out, and there was a cancellation on the expedition ship that we were planning to go on next year. And so we were able to hop in last minute, and there was a little discount and whatever. So because it was last minute, and so we were like, let's go. And so, yeah, we planned an expedition to Antarctica in 2 weeks. And similar to your never having eaten Korean food, I live in the South and I don't even own a closed pair of shoes. So it was to say that the shopping list the expedition company sent us was an overwhelming task to fit in 2 weeks, but we did it and it was amazing. So I would, 5 out of 5 stars, would do it again on 2 weeks notice or 2 days notice. Really. It was awesome.
That is awesome. And here I feel terrible, right? Because my Antarctica trip is what, 6 years out? It's like it's the plan, but you did it in 2 weeks. So there you
two
go.
weeks and it was awesome. It was totally worth it. And really it was quite doable. I mean, we've traveled so much and, I'll say yes to pretty much any adventure that I was like, let's go. So it worked out really well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
How
All
about
right.
you? You want to kick off a question?
Yes, let me ask one. Okay, so if you could see any musical act that is no longer performing live, who would it be?
Mm. Oh, there's quite a few. Um, I'm going to go with a specific event, right? The act, but also one specific concert by the act. I want to see Queen at Live Aid at Wembley Stadium. That would have been what, there were like 75,000 people there, and Freddie Mercury just had that many people just eating out of the palm of his hand. I can only imagine. I mean, when I've watched I get goosebumps watching the video of him doing that. I can't even imagine what it would have been like actually being there. So I think there's a bunch, but I think like that one specific event would be a winner for me. That would have just been completely epic. I love it. How about you? Are you a live music fan? Who would be your top list item?
You know what? I'm not. I like music. We have it playing in the background all the time, and I like pop music. We listen to the radio and that sort of stuff. But I've been to a lot of concerts, but it's usually because a friend has begged me to go. Like, oh, please. And I'm like, okay, fine. I can roll out for anything. But I wouldn't normally be like, oh, I want to buy these concert tickets. It's just not my thing.
Right. The like Taylor Swift mania of standing in line and, mortgaging your house to get a ticket to go see an individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one
Yep.
person I will always see if they were within maybe a 2-hour radius of my house is Andy Grammer. I love him. We've seen him live a whole bunch of times. He's so amazing. The energy level is ridiculous. His music is just so cool. And he's just a happy, positive individual. You leave there feeling like you've been to a yoga class, kind of like floating out on a cloud, but you've been to a concert, which is pretty awesome. So the last time we saw him, we did the standing only in like the center pit, which mainly just because we bought tickets last minute. It wasn't really an intentional plan. And I was thinking, I think I might be too old to stand up for an entire concert at this rate. I went with one of my teenagers, but it was awesome. Well worth it. So it was pretty good.
That's awesome.
All right. So one of the things that I enjoy about our friendship is that we are both pretty big adventurers. Amanda and I both love to travel. And if you're listening to this thinking that's so unrelatable, it's too expensive to travel. When I tell you my kids have showered in more communal bathrooms in hostels and in really random places, I'm not saying glamorous travel. I'll just say yes to an adventure. Right. So Amanda, I'm going to assume that your bucket list is pretty lengthy. So is there something on your bucket list that is super intimidating or super overwhelming or super frightening, like kind of the big one that's on your bucket list?
I'm going to say yes, but maybe not for the reason that you're thinking. So I have not yet been to Machu Picchu, and I really want to go. But I am disabled, and I have a lot of problems with exercise and climbing stairs and walking and things like that. And it's gotten significantly worse over the last few years. And so I really regret that I didn't go before I got more sick. Um, and I really want to go. And my kiddo he's actually just been learning about Machu Picchu, and so he's like trying to plan it for the coming year. And I'm really overwhelmed and intimidated with how that's going to go, and like how
Mm-hmm.
the two of us are going to handle that if I go and try to make that work. So yeah.
I can completely see that. The altitude is a big factor and all that kind of stuff. So I can completely see that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I mean, it's still planned. We'll see how it goes, right? I might be bedridden for weeks by the time I get home, but it'll be amazing. It'll be amazing.
You'll have a story to tell, so it'll be good.
Yeah, exactly. How
There you
about
go.
you? What is something on your bucket list that's like big and overwhelming, but like you're still totally gonna do it?
Um, I think, and you might laugh at this one because you've just recently been to Africa with your kiddo, but I would like to go on safari. We haven't done it yet. I have a number of friends who are from South Africa, and they've come to the US, and they've always talked about safety concerns in South Africa and crime in South Africa and stuff like that. And we've traveled a whole bunch, and I've traveled solo with my kids a whole bunch. But I think just because I'd heard those stories for so long from friends, and heard things that I'm a little bit intimidated to take my kids solo. I'm like between the crime stories that I've heard and the violence and things like that I've heard, and then the fact that there's like a whole lot of animals that can eat you. There's like two parts of it that are pretty overwhelming. But I have a kiddo who's interested in volunteering in South Africa for 6 weeks at an animal rescue, and so after it's like if we were going to go all the way to do that, then it's an obvious thing. So I'm going to have to put on my big girl panties and just, be vigilant
Mhm.
and make it happen. It'll be
Yeah.
it'll be amazing, but I am a little bit intimidated by it.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's fair. That's totally fair. I mean, yeah, we went to Africa and it was amazing, but we were also sick almost the entire time, right? Like,
I do recall the text messages. Yes, I do.
yeah,
They
it
were,
was,
for anyone who didn't get to read them, they were descriptive. Okay. So-
I was, I was miserable. My kid was miserable. It was hot. There was no air conditioning. There was no warm water. It was a
there's
thing. It was a whole
there's
thing.
a lot of food poisoning and whatever else going on. Yeah, it was an adventure for sure.
Yeah. Not in South Africa. I will say it was not. We
Yeah.
were not in South Africa. I did not get food poisoning when I went to South Africa. Madagascar was a totally different story.
Yes, very different experience there. Stories to tell.
Yes.
I love that. All right, and then last question in our Getting to Know You series for the day. Is there an item in your life that is not an expensive item? It holds little or no value to anyone else, but means the world to you. That means it's something that you cherish completely.
Yeah. I would say I have a postcard collection that I sent to my grandma, and my grandma has passed away, but from a young age, as a little kid, my grandma and I would write letters back and forth to each other. And she had a lot of grandkids. I was one of the only ones that actually wrote letters. And then once I started traveling, she used to always say that I should travel the world as much as I could now, because once I got older, I wouldn't want to get on an airplane. And that was one of her biggest regrets. She
Mhm.
didn't travel, she didn't leave the country until she was too old to not want to do it anymore. And so I tried to take her with me on all of my travels. And so she just had over 100 postcards from all these different places that I had gone to. And she saved them all. I didn't know she saved them all
Oh,
until we were cleaning out her home after she had passed. And there was this stack of postcards. And, I mean, someone else would have happily just chucked them. But, I squirreled them away and I held on to them because it just reminds me a lot of good things between my grandma and I. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah. I'm trying to think of mine. I have a handful of things because I'm not a big stuff person. I mean, you aren't either, right? As far as
Mhm.
like having all the things. I think one of my most special things that I own is actually this guy over here over my shoulder. I've had him since I was born. And his name's Teddy, which is super original because I was really little when I named him. Right. um, and Teddy has had, so first of all, he can't really hold his own head up. You kind of have to sit him very cautiously because I would kind of strangle him a little bit. And when I'd hold him, and one side, I must have slept on one side more than the other when I was younger because one side of him is much flatter than the other. But he's had a number of ear replacements and feet replacements because he's just like a thin cotton calico material. He's not fuzzy or anything.
Okay.
His eyes have been sewn back on, his nose is all the way pushed in and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, I slept with him basically until I got married. And then I was like, maybe I should retire, Teddy. I don't know. And so we've moved a whole bunch for my husband's job, but Teddy always has this kind of place of honor in the house so that he feels included and so he can watch over everyone. And so Teddy's kind of my special guy. And in fact, when we move and the company sends people to show up and pack the boxes and do all that. Our stuff ends up in corporate storage. Sometimes it's like a whole process for company moves. And I have maybe 10 items that I don't let the movers take just in case something happens or something goes wrong. And none of them are, big monetary items. People are probably, they make you fill out this form beforehand of like all your high value items. And I'm like, but for me, it's like Teddy. I take my hard drive with my pictures, right? It's like, those are the things that are the most valuable to me. So Teddy stays with me wherever I go.
That's awesome. We have he's not mine, he's my kiddos, but we have Penguin, who also goes by Steve. But he was one when Penguin came into our lives. And so he got a very original name initially.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. I mean, that's one of my kids, and he's since retired from sleeping with him, but that's Puppy, so we have a lot of, there's a lot of those. Yeah. I don't think we're alone in that.
No, pretty
well,
common.
All right, friends. So we have some really exciting content lined up for our podcast. We are going to be we'll start with some basics of homeschooling. Homeschooling is the largest sector of education, the growing sector of education, I should say. And so we're going to start with some just kind of foundational information for new homeschoolers who are looking for a bit of reinforcement and support. So that'll be there. We'll have some fun stuff. We'll have a whole bunch of audience participation stuff. And we'll also have a book club component to our podcast, which will be really awesome. I mean, there's a ton of homeschool books that are out there and parenting books that are out there. And it's hard to have time to read them all. So Amanda and I will be kicking off with Teach Your Own, which is a John Holt book originally that's been kind of remastered by Pat Ferranga. And it's really good. It's kind of one of those staples of the homeschooling world. And so if you ever want to read along with us, we'll be chatting about different chapter segments in our podcast episodes. So I'm super excited. What are you most excited about for podcasting, Amanda? I'll put you on the spot.
I don't know, but I do think with the book club, like I want to read all of the parenting books, and I just don't have time to read all of the parenting books and all of the things that I want to read for fun, right? Like I want to disconnect in the evening, and that's not the time that I want to be like reading a parenting book and annotating it and using my colored sticky notes because I'm that anal about things. So I love the fact that this is a chance for people to just like tune in and hear like the highlights. You don't actually have to read along if you don't want to. Obviously, you're welcome to read along with us. I mean, by all means, go for it. But I wish that this had been out there when I was first starting out and trying to figure things out. And when I discovered that my son was twice exceptional, I spent so much time reading so many books, and I found a few kind of like cliff notes or spark notes online of different books, but not many of them. Mm-hmm. And so I love that idea that people could come and listen to just like snippets of it without having to actually spend hours reading all of the books themselves.
Yeah, because this is it's pretty meaty, right? There's a lot happening here. It's a big commitment if you're going to read the entire thing, which it is a good book, but there are some things that resonate more than others. And so we will kind of each pull our collective aha moments, as they used to say in the Oprah Book Club back in the 90s. We can kind of pull our collective aha moments and share them. And if you have enough of them that you're like, okay, I'm going to have to read that book because everything that comes out, but some of the other ones you might take a few high points and be like, great, I'm glad I just, took the high points of that and then moved on with my life. So stay tuned. We'll be posting new episodes starting in the next week or so as we put the finishing touches on them. And we're super excited to have you here. We're always looking to build our homeschool community and make new homeschool friends. So awesome sauce.
Yeah, totally. And, one other thing that I was just thinking of that I'm actually really excited about for the podcast is you kind of alluded to it before, but your kids are awesome, but you have a very unschooling way of doing things. And I think my kid is awesome, but we're fairly close to like the academic aggressive end of the spectrum, right? We sign up for the classes, we do all kinds. I mean, we're pretty intense with it, but we are friends. Yeah. And we really respect each other and how we're choosing to homeschool, and we get a lot of interesting ideas from each other. And I think I'm really excited to see how that plays out in this format. because the
Yeah,
world needs more of that. Different people doing different things and still respecting each other.
exactly. Yeah, you're the yin to my yang in the homeschooling world. I'm so glad we buddied up. It
Yeah.
works out well. I agree. So it's going to be exciting. I'm super excited. We'll have some guest speakers coming on and some fun segments. So, yeah, we're super glad you're here, and we can't wait to launch with episode 1 coming soon. Have a great day.